Hello everyone, I'm your haunted host Jennifer. I may be spirited, but I am indisposed this week. So please, in the meantime, enjoy this encore episode. It is one of my favorites, and I will be back soon. Thank you. Hello and welcome to I Talk to Ghosts. I'm your haunted host Jennifer, a spirit medium and a teller of ghost stories. Tonight, dear listener, get ready to be captivated by chills. This evening, we are going to be locked in with the ghosts as we explore tales of haunted prisons. And afterward, join me around the seance table for a message from the spirits. I call close a departed loved one for someone listening to this episode. Will this message be for you? Find out after the new in-studio spirit reading I have for you with my latest podcast guest. That's all coming up after the ghost stories. And before we begin, I'd like to give a spooky shout out to two sisters who listen to the podcast, McKelty and Eden. Thank you for listening and for sharing the spooky with me. And now, let's settle in for some ghost stories. The haunted prisons are unlocking the gates for you right now. I'm a corrections officer at a county jail in northwest Alabama. I work a 12-hour night shift. Most nights are calm and not much happens. Sometimes a single shift can make you feel like you've been there for weeks. Some of those calm nights are not really all that calm. We have 2 holding cells in the front of the jail, used to house inmates that have recently been booked. And we have another room up front we call the pink room, due to the walls and ceiling being painted a hot pink color, because a former sheriff thought hot pink was a calming color. It's our drunk tank, equipped with a camera for observation. Everyone hates this room. One night, after lights out when everyone was asleep, it was around 2:45 a.m. I heard a loud bang in one of the holding cells, like someone was hitting or kicking the door. This would have been a normal noise if anyone had been inside one of them. But my partner and I had moved everyone out of the 2 holding cells just a few hours before. I thought it might be the guy we were keeping in the pink room for medical observation. But when I looked over at the monitor for the camera in there, he was sound asleep. I went over to the doors of the holding cells to investigate. I lifted the heavy curtains on the window so I could see into each one. But there was no sign of anything. I figured I was just hearing things since that noise was so commonly heard at all times of the day and night. The place was completely silent until about 3:05 a.m. I started hearing the noise it makes when a door is unlocked from the control room. There is a door that leads to the kitchen and the recreation yard. That was the door that sounded like it was unlocked. I radioed my partner, who was in the control room, and asked if she had unlocked this door. She said that she hadn't touched the computer for the last 2 hours. Again, I thought it was a common noise to be heard. The silence was playing tricks on me. Then I heard it again. Except this time, it sounded like the front door. I looked over at the monitors for the front door and saw nothing. But on the monitor for the pink room, I could see the screen started to get fuzzy, like static. Then it went completely black for a few seconds. When the camera came back on, the inmate was still sleeping in the same spot. but everything he had in there with him, his cup, shoes, blanket, etc., was scattered across the whole room. I would have heard him moving and throwing things, but it was completely quiet for those few seconds when the camera was black. After that, I decided I didn't want to be alone anymore. I went up to the control room with my partner and started telling her what was going on. She just laughed and said, "Must have been Christine." She told me that Christine was an inmate that had died in the old jail next door, and that the reason she haunts the new jail is because the buildings are connected. She told me about the numerous things that had happened while she was on shift, including actual sightings of the ghost called Christine. She said that Christine has gray hair down to her shoulders and wears a white nightgown. She also said that Christine can be seen walking down the hallways on the cameras, inside the cells with her hands on the bars looking through them, and sometimes you can see her face from the windows outside. Located in Moundsville, West Virginia, is the old West Virginia State Maximum Security Prison. Now, this prison has a long and sometimes violent history. The prison is closed now, but you can still tour it, and if you're brave enough, even spend the night there. This story happened on the daylight tour I took of the facility while I was a corrections officer with the state of West Virginia. Once we received our initial briefing about the facility, we were allowed to tour it on our own and pretty much go wherever we wanted, even places the public isn't allowed. I was in the section of the prison known as the Sugar Shack, supposedly where some of the worst offenders were housed. I was the only person in this section of the prison at the time, and while I was up on the third tier inspecting some of the old cells, down below me, the cell doors all slammed shut. All the doors had closed at once, which is what they were supposed to do, but they were controlled by a lever from the central location, which I could see, and no one was there, and the lever was still in the up position. Taking that as a cue, I left that section of the prison and made my way down to the basement to a location called The Hole. This was a place they said drove some inmates mad. While in the basement, I kept having the feeling of someone following me, and as I drew near the hole, a feeling of dread and despair almost overwhelmed me. I tried to keep my senses, though, and started to make my way deeper into the basement. I caught the glimpse of a figure just off in the shadows, moving from right to left, that should have brought them into the light, what little there was. But they never appeared. Once again, I took it as a cue to leave. I went from there up to the medical and dental ward of the facility. No physical events took place there, just a sense of foreboding. This has all led me to believe that something is still behind the walls of this prison, and that they may never be able to leave. Alcatraz is said to have housed wrongdoers, gangsters, and ghosts. It is even said that the island which houses Alcatraz is an energy portal where evil spirits are allowed to come through. It's no wonder this penitentiary is rumored to be haunted by the men who linger there. There are reports of ghostly figures, screams, banging metal doors, putrid smells, and sobbing. There is an unexplained, disturbing event that occurred in an isolation block of the prison known as the Hole. This level was located on the bottom floor of the prison in cell block D, where they kept inmates who broke the more serious rules at Alcatraz. In the 1940s, it was reported by a guard that a figure, seemingly from the 1800s, haunted this block. The apparition was seen on several occasions, and prisoners claimed they had been attacked by a man with glowing eyes. Since the hole was an isolation chamber, it's likely that most guards thought the ongoing screams claiming attack were hallucinations. On one particular evening, one inmate screamed the night through that he was being attacked by the man with glowing eyes, but was ignored by guards who had become numb to such claims. After a night of screams and pleading, he finally fell silent. The door to his cell was opened in the morning, and the inmate was found dead. A horrible grimace marred his face, and handprints were visible around his throat. An examination later determined that these marks were not self-inflicted. This victim, whether at the hands of the glowing-eyed ghost or by an irritated guard, became a ghost of Alcatraz himself, as he was reported in a lineup with other inmates, but promptly vanished to the amazement of everyone present. Numerous psychics have reported cold spots, harsh and sudden emotional bursts, apparitions claiming abuse, vibrations, and a myriad of other ghostly traces. In fact, there are a few spots in the prison where you can't see or feel otherworldly energies. Said to be haunted are the hospital, the warden's house, cell blocks D and C, and the lighthouse. Three years ago, I got a job in a pub in my local town. The pub is situated next to the town's police station because before it became a pub, it was part of the town's prison. This building had a bar and restaurant downstairs and a series of flats upstairs. I worked in this place for just under a year, and while I was there, I started dating a guy that lived there. His parents owned the pub. He mentioned on his first night there, he slept upstairs in what was then to become the living room. He said, in the middle of the night, he was shaken awake and heard a voice say, "Go home. This is our place." Once he had officially moved into a bedroom, he said that room had so many experiences, such as the door slamming, rapping on the walls, and other strange noises that he didn't feel comfortable in there and moved into a bedroom next door to that. When I first spent the night there, I was quite excited and also a bit nervous. I didn't hear anything that first night, but I did notice the atmosphere in the pub changed during the early hours in the morning. The atmosphere became almost oppressive and gave me the impression I was being watched. About 4 months later, I had worked a shift in the pub and it was late at night. The pub was closed and the only people there were the landlords and myself. We sat at the bar chatting, and I heard the door to the men's restroom open. I had my back to the door and it was about 10 feet behind me. I then heard someone walk across the wooden floor, and I heard the sound of keys jangling. As I turned around to look, no one was there, and I asked my boss, "Who else is in the pub?" He joked that I must have been hearing things, but the noise I heard, especially with the keys, was so loud that I was puzzled why only I had heard it. Another time, I was in my boyfriend's room, and he said that the room felt eerie that night, and he was sure something was going to happen. We didn't have the TV on, and we had just paused the music. From the middle of his bedroom, I heard a very loud growl. Later that night, we both went downstairs to get some crisps. The cellar of the pub was locked, and we had to walk past it to get to the small kitchen for a snack. We heard a noise behind the cellar door. We both looked at each other puzzled, grabbed our snacks, and started to walk back upstairs. About 3 steps up, we heard a huge thud at the cellar door and then knocking. We ran up the stairs quickly at that, too frightened to open the door and take a look. The weirdest experience I had was when the boyfriend's parents had gone on holiday and had asked me to stay at the pub for that week and keep the flat upstairs safe. I had just finished a shift. I decided to phone my boyfriend just as I was opening the door to the flat to ask him what he wanted for dinner. He answered the phone and we spoke for about 2 minutes, but I couldn't seem to turn the lock in the door. I told him that I couldn't get into the flat, and he laughed at me and said, "Maybe the ghosts don't want you there." As soon as he said that, the phone signal went bizarre. We both heard about 20 other voices, all speaking at once, none of which were understandable, and some which sounded very panicked. I then managed to turn the key in the lock and open the door, and the voices on our call stopped. Let's just say the hour I sat in that flat alone, waiting for him to come home, was rather unsettling. I asked the owners if they had ever considered holding a paranormal night there, but they refused, saying that they had to live there and would simply rather not know. Hello, my dear spooky friend. Do you have a paranormal experience you would like to share? Submit your ghost stories to be read on this podcast. I love sharing true ghost stories, and yours could be among them. Email me your story at speaknow@italktoghosts.com. Let's be spooky together. Hello and welcome back to I Talk to Ghosts. My guest this evening is Gilda. Gilda, thank you for being on the podcast. Welcome to your reading. How are you doing today?
With a 3-day weekend, I'm feeling pretty good.
So, first impressions, just jumping right into this. I've had a few people surrounding you a little bit, coming close a little bit. There's a male figure coming in with a lot of love. Like the love of the family, like the family love flows through him and through you. Does that make sense?
It does. Because this one person I was thinking about, for a very long time growing up, I thought he was the only relative I had tied to my dad's side.
Was this your dad's father?
My dad's brother, actually.
Dad's brother.
It was a twin.
Okay, this makes sense.
I was like, my dad has parents? Like, I didn't meet them. I didn't meet my grandmother, but maybe I can see them, like, anytime he would come and see us, maybe he brought their love. Like, send them our love. Send them our love.
Coming through with him, warm, jovial. Did animals like him? I see a dog following him around.
My dad has a story about their family dog that was like super human, like super dog.
Oh, do you think that dog might be coming through with him?
Possibly. My dad talks about him every now and then. The one thing that he remembers was that his mother would pack a lunch for my grandfather, put it around the dog. The dog would take it to my grandfather wherever he was working and spend some time with them and then come back.
Wow.
So I was like, oh, wow, dogs can do that.
Very smart. Very smart. Your uncle, your brother's twin, did he have a really great sense of humor? Always smiling?
Yes, my dad would always say that he was a jokester, and conversations with my cousins now, like my dad's nephews, they would always tell me that his name was Ricardo. Ricardo is the way I see it. And that he was always just messing around and joking with somebody and just, the term in Spanish is sacando la garra, which means like just joking on them like really hard.
He wanted me to tell you that you're looking really good. And it's almost like he's like jokingly proud about it, like, oh, you look good. Way to represent the family. Oh, he's saying that you get his good looks.
Yeah. Well, they say I have his nose. So,
okay.
Yeah. My dad, and even though they're identical twins, the nose is slightly different and I have his nose. They even say sometimes that I'm his daughter.
I see him shaking hands with people. I don't know if that is a literal thing or a symbolic thing, that he knew a lot of people, was well liked, well loved, had a lot of friends. People liked to be around him.
Both he and my dad, they were mariachis growing up. So they were into music. So they were always around like people and music. And I guess if he was playing for people music, there was always hellos and everything.
Did he play the guitar?
He did.
Who has his guitar now?
I have it. You don't have any idea like what that means. My dad took it though. He's just down the street from me though, saying, oh, I'm going to try to fix it. But with his eyes kind of like the vision going away, I don't know if he's done more damage than good. And I'm okay with it. I mean, I'm going to let my dad do what he's going to do until he can't anymore. So, but it's mine.
Yeah. He's bringing up the guitar. You have a daughter?
I have two.
Are either of them musically inclined?
My youngest, she has autism. So, but she's always about music. It's always music every day, all the time about music. My oldest played a little bit here and there, and she played a guitar when she was younger and just kind of picked it up quickly.
He brought up the guitar. He's talking about your daughters. He's kind of pointing at them. I feel like there's that flow there of energy and music. And, if they are so inclined,
yeah,
great uncle thinks that it would be good for them. It would be good for their soul. He's saying it's good for the soul. Alma, is that soul?
Yes.
Yes, he's saying it's good for the soul, and just really wants to encourage that a little bit. And don't let your dad break the guitar. It doesn't have to be that guitar, but it's wonderful that you have it, and I do think there's that link there. And again, that love, that flow that seems to be in your family. I can't really express it well enough, but so much warmth, and feels like he had a very big heart and encapsulated the energy of your family very well. Other things that I was seeing, I was wondering if there was a family Bible or if someone had a Bible verse like on their wall. Does that make sense? And I was also seeing like a prayer card. This feels grandparent related.
I don't remember too much about my grandparents, so no, but I'll definitely make note of that.
Yeah. Ask your dad. Maybe your dad would
So there would be like a Bible verse or something.
Yeah, I'm wondering if framed on the wall. And I'm also seeing someone's prayer card, like maybe from like a funeral. I don't think the prayer card is on the wall. I think that was kind of tucked into a book. I was wondering if there was a woman who was coming through, a bit of a stronger personality, had opinions on things, didn't mind telling you what she thought.
So I had a cousin who, she was a year older than me. I always saw her as like that strong, like tough little girl, been through stuff, and no, you don't take their bullshit type of thing.
Yes.
You know, that kind of stuff.
Yes. Okay. She was adventurous.
With her type of feistiness, I can probably see her like, hey, I'm going to do this. She didn't live near us. Her family, they moved up to like the Washington, Oregon area, and I'm here in Texas. And we would lose touch for quite a while, and then came back. She ended up dying of cancer.
Yeah. She was bringing up burdens, but also she really loved the views of the Pacific Northwest. She just loved looking out at how expansive it can be, you know. And I think that just really stirred her. She's really coming off as she had confidence, good sense of humor. Yeah, I think she's just showing me that would really have loved to have gone on more adventures. And I think that she's emoting that a little bit, like, don't stay in one place, travel, see things, do things, experience things. It's important. It's important in life.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see that.
I was also wondering if there was an aunt that you had that had passed away as well.
I have a few aunts.
One of them immediately said, don't worry, just do. Like that they're coming through with this comforting message of, you know, the worrying isn't going to help. Just get through it. Do the things that you need to do. Try not to stress about it. But also it's like, just be hopeful. Be hopeful. We worry that things won't work out, and the worry isn't going to help. So she was coming through with a very comforting hug and just saying, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay.
I tell myself that. I try to tell myself that all the time.
You worry because you care, right? But if we can get in touch with the caring and less with the worry, I think that it can just ease us a little bit. And yeah, your aunt has a lot of comforting energy around that. One last thing I wanted to ask, was there anyone who, there's recipes, they just seem like, I'm seeing a bright kitchen, and they just had some signature things that they did that they were just kind of known for.
My dad would tell me that his father, my grandfather, they were candy makers.
Oh, that, you know, one of the first things that came through for me was candy, but I just had a reading where someone was talking about candy. So I was like, oh no. And I kind of dismissed it, but you should never do that. You should never do that.
Yeah.
Well, I do have some messages for you. The first thing I wrote down was let go of the worry. Reach out with so much love. Celebrate every small detail. And there was also talk of you carrying the burdens for others a little bit. So to make sure to make time for you and to pamper yourself a little bit. All that love that you pour out, turn it around and give it to yourself as well. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for meeting with me today. This has been lovely. Absolutely lovely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Before we go, do you have a personal ghost story that you would like to share?
I do. I do have one.
Listener ghost story.
So it was one day after picking up my daughter from the special school that she used to go to for kids with autism. I'd average 80 miles a day, just taking her and picking her up from there. And so one day I came home, she walks in, she's about maybe 4, maybe 5 years old. And I'm sitting here, just kind of nothing is on. I want to just kind of zone out for a little bit. And all I can hear her is running around back there around the sofas and giggling and laughing and just having fun. I was like, just let her. I just need this time to relax. So I'm zoning out, looking at the TV. It's not even on. You know that feeling sometimes you're just like, I just need to sit here and be, just be.
Absolutely.
And so I'm still hearing her running and playing. And it sounds like she's laughing with someone, playing with someone. And being that my daughter has autism, she doesn't speak. At that time, it was very really nonverbal. Couldn't understand if she was trying to say something. When she tried to say something, couldn't understand her. But this one time, sitting here, I hear her little footsteps running towards me, and she leans right real close to my face. And she says, Gibby. And I'm like, what? Caught my attention. She's like, Gibby. What? Gibby. And I thought, oh my God, Aurora. Oh, I just hugged her, and I'm like, that was Mama's friend. Taking it back now, in high school, my then ex-husband and boyfriend at the time, we had a good friend growing up. His name was Gilbert, and we called him Gibby. He was always good with our kids, Now, Aurora came way after he passed away. And, but he used to rent my house, this house. He lived here. He used to live here. And so for her to say a word that you can actually understand what she's saying, and her having just played in the back for a while and just giggling and laughing, when she came to me and said the name Gibby 3 times, I was like, that was him. And
Absolutely.
I wasn't scared. It was just like, oh my gosh, like how lucky are you to have seen him, to have played with him?
Absolutely. I believe it too. That's so much, so many details that fall in place for that to be true. Wow. Thank you so much. Well, thank you again for meeting with me today. And you have a lovely family, and this has been just wonderful.
Yeah. Jennifer, thank you. Also, it's just, some things, and my uncle and his guitar, yeah, I'll make sure my dad doesn't break it.
Okay. Would you like a free spirit reading with me and record your reading for the podcast? Sign up for your chance to be selected by visiting italktoghosts.com/guest. And as an added bonus, if you don't want to leave your reading up to chance, I'll let you in on a secret. There's a discount offer to book a private session with me, so you can book a date and time for certain. Visit italktoghosts.com/guest for more details. I can't wait to meet you. Hello and welcome back to I Talk to Ghosts. I have a message from the spirits this evening, so thank you for joining me in the candlelight around my seance table. Tonight, I'm going to be working with ghost quartz or phantom quartz. Now, if you're not familiar with this type of crystal, it's named so because it contains inclusions that resemble ghostly phantoms, and it's known to symbolize the cycle of life and death, past lives, spiritual growth, and transformation. So I thought it would be fitting to keep it close this evening. What I like to do is ground and center, call a spirit close. And this evening, this might be a little bit of a challenging one. I have with me someone's ex-boyfriend. When you knew him at a younger age, he was a difficult person to know and love. Very reactionary, short temper, unpredictable. He says that you would know him by a Tasmanian devil tattoo that he had. The two of you separated very early on. I wouldn't be surprised if you were teenagers or early 20s. And he sees how he was. And he also has the insight now that he had a difficult upbringing himself, and there were issues stemming from that. So I think you would understand that. And his message for you tonight is he's coming to me and he's saying, well, if there's an opportunity here, I'm going to take it. He's going to say it. He is sorry for the drama that he had put you through, and he's very glad to see you where you are in life now, loving family of your own, stability, comfort, and that he sees you thriving. He thinks you're a wonderful person and that you have so much genuine love to give those who know you. He just really wants to acknowledge it and honor it, and he's saying that he's sorry he wasted it. And I know young relationships are hard. We're still trying to figure ourselves out, let alone each other. So I'll just add that in there, I think, a little bit. But he just wanted to express his gratitude for knowing you and wishes you well and sees you well and is really happy to see you happy. I think I'm going to leave it at that. If this message connects for you, please reach out because I would love to know. Thank you. And with that, dear listener, we've reached the end of this episode of I Talk to Ghosts. I hope you've enjoyed the spirit work that I've shared with you this evening, as well as those tales of haunted prisons. Do you have a paranormal story you would like to share? I would love to hear it. In the meantime, wherever you wander off to in this world or the next, just remember, come back and visit with me. Have a lovely evening and good night.